Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you from the Tales from Retail subreddit. Hey, does anybody else smell those cookies? Those freshly baked chocolate chip cookies sitting on the counter downstairs? Well, I'm willing to share them, but you need to subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcasting platform to get some. Let me know when you've done that in the comments, and I'll be sure to get you your cookies. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Temporary Lumpy 8589. Triple threat combo of entitled customer, people don't read posted signs, and your lack of prep does not constitute an emergency on my end. So during college, I had 2 jobs. One was at a pizza restaurant, the other at a localized but very prolific grocery store chain. Think a few hundred stores, all in the same couple counties of the same US state. I primarily worked in the deli hot food section of the grocery store. We had a very nice commercial rotisserie oven that could spit something like 30 chickens on at once. 6 spit arms, 5 chickens to an arm. The chickens we used, it is crucial to note, were not taken from our store's meat section, but were shipped to us separately from the supplier. They were evenly sized, contained packets of the seasoning mix we were supposed to sprinkle on them, were already pre-cleaned of giblets, and had been mechanically drilled through so we could easily spit them on the large rotating arms of the commercial grade rotisserie. The last step is crucial because if you try to force an improperly prepped, undrilled bird onto one of those very large spit arms, the odds are high the bird will fall apart into the oven and start burning and smoking. We found that one out the hard way when the supplier sent a couple that weren't properly prepped. Usually, we cooked enough chickens each day to meet everyone's demands, but every once in a while, when we had an unusually busy day and ran out when it was too late to make more, we would have a customer bring a whole chicken from the meat section and ask if we could cook it. Mercifully, when we explained all of the above, plus the fact that we weren't going to run the entire expensive oven for just one bird, people would typically say, "Oh, okay," and leave without pestering us further. In fact, most people began the inquiry with, "I know the answer is probably no, but," so they weren't too disappointed. Sometimes we'd get a remark from our manager afterwards about how we should have prepped more birds, but that was the extent of it. Now on to the story. It was well publicized that this chain of stores around US Thanksgiving offered a pre-cooked meal special. But the thing was, you had to pre-order it well in advance. The reason being, part of that special involved us stocking a fixed amount of turkeys that were specially prepped for the oven, just like our chickens usually were, to cook in the rotisserie. We would have a special crew to stay after closing the day before Thanksgiving to cook these turkeys and their accompanying sides overnight, so people could pick them up Thanksgiving morning. Once we had taken enough pre-orders to account for all our turkeys, we couldn't take any more orders because the supplier wouldn't send any more turkeys. This was well publicized in all our TV ads, on signs on the door, and the deli and the cash register, on the website, you name it. One year, we were swamped with pre-orders and actually ran out of pre-drilled turkeys about 10 days prior to Thanksgiving. Usually, it was 3 or 4. My manager, foreseeing potential disaster, bought some bright, and I do mean bright, think obnoxiously bright and hurting your eyes, neon-colored paper, and wrote in black bold letters that we could no longer take pre-orders. We were out of turkeys. He posted these signs all over the store. Every entrance, every exit, the frozen section, the produce section, the butcher, the dry goods, and of course, our own section in deli hot foods. We get through the next couple of days just fine. His plan seemed to have worked. But then, the day before Thanksgiving, enter 50-odd-year-old entitled lady. And yes, she had the certain haircut. Quite literally with one of my manager's childish, neon with black letters, "You can't possibly miss it" signs right next to her, she starts begging and pleading and sob-storying me into trying to somehow get a Thanksgiving meal pre-order in for her. I try to be nice to her as I can, initially thinking she's just distraught. But then, she suddenly runs off. I think that's the end of it, but when she comes back with a truly gigantic turkey from the frozen meat section, "Here, I brought you a turkey, put it with the others." Now, I have to take a deep breath and try to explain why I can't do that, the bird isn't prepped, the bird is too big, and won't cook at the same speed as the others. I don't know how long she's had it out of the freezer, so it's a sanitation issue. It's not drilled through, and I'd tear it up trying to spit it, etc. She's having none of that. She just keeps whining. You can't be out of turkeys, there's so many in the back, I'll get a smaller one, I really need this, etc. Naturally, I'm thinking, why did you even think you'd be able to come in the day before Thanksgiving anyway, when the store is slammed, and the ad said order now, order soon, and we've got signs saying we ran out of turkeys 9 days ago, but I can't say that. Finally, she swears under her breath a little and leaves. I was just glad it didn't go worse, but I know she complained to corporate afterwards because we got the nominal, oh yeah, there was a dumb complaint brief later. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called the Doom Giraffe. It says, as someone who worked in the deli hotcase section of a chain grocery store, I feel your pain, but at least the managers seem to have your back. Mine would literally make us break rules in front of other customers for complainers, and then wondered why similar complaints started going up, and or why the customers keep having the exact same complaint. Another commenter down below called Metallic Hydrogen 99 said, we were told to break the rules all the time in the deli to make customers happy. It was painful when the managers didn't have our back when we were following what was in our union handbook. Also, having 40 to 50-year-olds act like teenagers when I was in my 20s was eye-opening. Opie responded and said, in this case we'd get in trouble with the health department if I tried to put a bird that big on the spit with the other birds. It wouldn't cook all the way as fast as the others, and that would mean we'd have to take them out of the oven while the big bird was still raw, and it would be a case of cooked meat in contact with uncooked meat, which for poultry in particular is a huge no-no. We could have caused a food poisoning situation, and with all their flaws, my manager at least was not going to risk that. There's always that one super entitled person who thinks their crap don't stink and that the world revolves around exactly what they want. I guess these days we call them Karen, and they frequently have the same haircut. At least in the store that OP worked in, they were able to put up handwritten signs. In the stores that I've worked in the past, if you put up a handwritten sign, you could actually get written up by the regional manager if they saw it. Every single sign had to be typed up, printed, and approved by them before being put up in the store, regardless of what it was for. Even if it was, the power is out and we're closed because we can't ring anything through, and the printers didn't work to make the sign. This story also comes to us from Temporary Lumpy 8589. You need the ham for what now? Another tale from working the deli hot food section at the grocery store. Sometimes I was on hot food duty, sometimes I was on cold cuts duty. This is a story about one of our regulars at the cold cuts counter. I never did learn her name, so I'll just call her SL for Sweet Lady. For context, by far the most time-consuming way to cut the meat is chipped or shredded. The blade set to a microscopic thickness setting so that the meat is like little bits of torn lace in a pile. Shortly after I first started working there, my manager, whom I'll call Z, notices this sweet little lady who I'd guess was in her mid-60s, wearing a classic bright floral pattern grandma shirt. This is the conversation that ensued. Oh no, what? Not again, what? Just hope no other customers come to the counter for a bit, and go get the brand name smoked honey and maple ham, the all-natural one. I was confused but glad to know ahead of time so I don't have to wait for the customer to make a selection. Okay, sure, but why? Just have it ready. She always orders like a ton of chipped honey maple ham once every couple weeks. I'll try to handle any other customers that come. You'll be here for a bit. My natural first thought is, oh, great, yay, lovely, or something of that nature. But it wasn't really crowded at the time as it wasn't our busy hour. Sure enough, Sweet Lady comes up, says, hi hun, and proceeds to somewhat apologetically order 1.5 pounds of this expensive specialty ham, all chipped and shredded. Like 24 ounces of teeny meat fragments. Usually slicing meat the normal way, even for 1.5 pounds, would take 45 seconds maybe. This took me several agonizing minutes, all the while hoping a queue wouldn't start forming behind her. While I'm chipping the meat, Sweet Lady stands there, waiting very patiently, making occasional small talk. Usually when customers had weird orders like this, they were also impatient or spoiled, so it was refreshing that she was so polite, but it still took forever. Finally, I gave her her order, she says, "Thanks, hun," and leaves. Over the next several months, I saw Sweet Lady many times, always wearing some super bright colored outfit, always coming in when we were sort of dead. She must have been aware her order was long, and the order was always the same. She was always super nice, so I tried to be super nice back to her, even though she was causing an inconvenience, and it became a normal part of the routine, and I didn't really mind it. It never really occurred to me to ask if she had a special reason for her order. Then, we don't see Sweet Lady for a long time by her standards. There was an underpass being constructed right down the road from our store at the same time, and we were being constantly slammed at lunch by construction workers, police, and firemen wanting fresh deli sandwiches. I honestly had forgotten about Sweet Lady when all of a sudden, in a comparative lull, I see this lady probably in her late 30s, early 40s, hovering around the deli counter. She looks very embarrassed and clearly doesn't want to be there. For a minute, she looks like she might chicken out and leave, but I managed to get over to the counter as I know Z is watching and hates it when customers leave without buying anything. This lady we'll call EL, Embarrassed Lady. "Sorry about the wait, can I help you, ma'am?" She won't look at me. She mumbles something I can't hear. "I'm sorry, what was that?" Mumbling something about her mom and the stupid dog. "Excuse me?" She manages to look at me, gives me the most embarrassed attempt at a grin ever. "My mom's a regular customer. I'm sorry to have to do this to you while you're busy, but she's been very sick lately, and she's been on my case to get the shredded meat for the dog." Now it's starting to come together that this is Sweet Lady's daughter. "Is it honey maple ham by any chance?" "Yes, sorry, 1.5 pounds shredded." Coming right up. Clearly, she wants to get it off her chest. "I'm so sorry to do this to you when you're busy, but Mom's got this 12-year-old pug that's going senile, and she spoils him rotten. He doesn't have many teeth, so this is about the only special treat he can have. He can't chew dog biscuits. Mom's home and recovering now, but she's been begging me to get up here all week." "Oh, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind at all." And honestly, I didn't. It was a break from the lunch craziness. I saw Sweet Lady 1 or 2 times after that before I was transferred to a sister store a few miles away. Before I left, I told Z and the other employees what Sweet Lady was using the chip meat for. Most of them said something like, "You've gotta be kidding me." But Z said, "Yeah, I figured it was for a dog or a cat, but I didn't want to ask." I felt silly for not thinking of it before, but as I'm an animal lover myself, and at the time had a nearly 20-year-old cat of my own, I could sympathize with her desire to make the last year or so of the pet's life special when they start to show signs of pet dementia and things like that. Also, I always enjoyed a little slice of life interaction like that because they made up for the other not so pleasant things about working there. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called SATERP. It says, "What a sweet lady, and you're a pretty nice person too, OP." OP responded and said, "She was very sweet. We had our fair share of demanding, entitled, jerky customers, and even 1 or 2 that we had to call the cops on. But people like her made it even out." There was another guy I used to love serving because he had the thickest Irish accent I've ever heard. I'm in the US, but he'd order things that were tricky to pronounce, like prosciutto, or capicola, or mortadella. For some reason, hearing those Italian words in an Irish accent just made my day. It was so unexpected. It's always wonderful to have a story about a customer that we absolutely love. And that's kind of how it goes working retail, right? Customers really are the best and worst part about working in retail. OP, this lady might have been seeking you out to get this done because you showed her a little bit of respect. I'm sure she'd been in there before and asked some of your coworkers for that order, and they might have been a little bit perturbed. I can guarantee you she would have known which ones there wouldn't mind doing that order and which ones would, so she probably was seeking you out. I love how the daughter came in though, and didn't want to ask for it, but eventually did it anyway. We support those who we love, right? Even if it's doing something that we wouldn't normally like doing. Alright, I figure we'll make this a trifecta today. The last story also comes to us from Temporary Lumpy 8589, and it's titled, 2 Brazen Encounters at the Deli Counter. As I think back on my time working in the grocery store's deli, hot bar section, I remember there were 2 times I had to get authorities involved. I figured I'd better tell those stories. The first one is super short, so I can put them both here. They also happened within a day or 2 of each other, though I don't remember which happened first. Because the deli is a service counter and not self-serve, loss prevention usually didn't have to worry about us. But there were at least 2 occasions they did while I was there. Story 1. So, had a customer come in late after the deli was closed, and we had taken down the machines for cleaning. It was company policy that if we had just closed, but not cleaned, or taken apart the slicers yet, we could serve customers who ran in last minute. Unfortunately, while it was a rare occurrence, 1 or 2 people thought that meant they could get meat all the way up till 11 p.m., even though the deli is closed at 9. Enter balding, middle-aged guy in flannels. He came in about 9:45 p.m. one night, just as I'd finished dismantling the last slicer, and put the parts in a sink full of suds. He wanted half a pound of salt and pepper roast beef sliced. I told him we were closed, and he said, "But you're supposed to be able to still cut it after closing." I told him that only applied if we had functioning slicers, which we didn't at the moment. The other girl on closing duty with me suggested he look to see if we had any in our pre-sliced display. Every day we cut several half-pound bags of our best sellers and put them in said display to save time. He did, but we were out. This man, without another word, took a swing at my colleague. He didn't come close to hitting her because she and I both had a nasty gut feeling about this guy from the moment he walked up and had stepped well back. He then proceeded to storm around the store making a mess. He didn't yell or scream or cuss, just started destroying our store systematically. He had a shopping basket instead of a cart and was swinging it at displays and shelves and knocking stuff down. We called loss prevention and they called the cops, who carted him off. The most bizarre thing was, after that incident, a rival store made a point of advertising that they didn't close their deli until after their whole store was closed, but they closed their whole store at 10 p.m., so it wasn't really much of a difference. Story 2, for context, at the far end of the deli hot bar counter, the store I worked at also had a fresh sandwich station, where we would have some meat we would cut fresh that morning, bread fresh out of the bakery department's oven, and various sub-toppings. Customers would order a sandwich and we'd make it, bag it, and hand it over the counter to them. This was time-consuming, and we sometimes would get big crowds at lunch, especially after a highway underpass started being constructed right near our store. To make things a bit more complicated, we had a rotating sub of the day special throughout the week. For instance, Sunday would be turkey, Monday would be ham, Tuesday any single meat 6-inch with purchase of a bag of chips, etc. The way we would make sure the customer got a discount when they took their sandwich to the cashier was to put the sandwich in a sub of the day bag instead of the normal bag. The barcodes were different. Enter entitled young customer, bedecked in jewelry and a spotless white business suit, who came in during a lunch rush. Said blinged out lady had a steadily growing queue of disgruntled construction dudes and ladies piling up behind her because she absolutely would not take her sandwich and go. I had put it in a deluxe sub bag and she adamantly wanted the sub of the day bag, even though she had knowingly made edits to the sandwich that increased the price. She was literally huffing and rolling her eyes because I wouldn't give her her way. My store's general manager was a penny pincher, and under no circumstances were we to put anything extra on a sandwich without putting it in a deluxe sub bag, more expensive than even a normal sub. The menu even said, subs of the day can have items removed from them, but not added. And this wasn't a question of a little extra lettuce or olives. The lady had added full servings of salami and beef to her ham sandwich, and still wanted me to put it in a sub of the day bag, and not charge her for the extra meat. It ain't happening, lady, I'm sorry. Finally, she stopped complaining and stormed off, much to the relief of the impatient line behind her. I had worked my way through a couple more orders when blinged out lady suddenly rematerialized, and, while looking me dead in the eye, reached over the counter into the deli area and snatched a discount sandwich bag, before booking it towards the other end of the store. At the time, the bag racks were kept close to the glass, which wasn't super tall, and she had long skinny arms and just barely managed to reach. Now, usually something this small price-wise doesn't warrant loss prevention, but the lady reached into a sanitized area and contaminated it. It meant I had to throw out and restock that whole rack of bags, and that wasn't going to fly. The customer I was serving saw what blinged out lady had done and was as flabbergasted as I was. She gave me gracious permission to run to the deli phone and call loss prevention. I wasn't there for the showdown, but I heard afterwards that my deli manager, who had stepped out to get some stuff off of a supply truck that had just come in, got word of what happened and was not happy. He told loss prevention he'd take care of it, then went over to self-checkout personally and stood with the attendant. When blinged out lady arrived with her shopping cart, she had the stolen sandwich bag on her sandwich overtopping the other one. Like, you could obviously see it was double bagged. My manager basically blocked her way to the scanner and said, "Nope, scan the right bag or give us back the sandwich." My deli manager was ex-military and took no nonsense, and I think blinged out lady must have sensed that. Reportedly, she complied immediately and shuffled out without looking at or speaking to anyone, like a little kid caught being naughty. Afterwards, we moved the bag rack to a different spot far from the prep area, and though it was massively inconvenient, we didn't have that particular trouble ever again. OP added an edit down at the bottom. It says, "Edit for clarity, the price difference on deluxe sandwiches versus sub of the day was only about $3, maybe $4. In most cases, loss prevention was not going to get involved over an amount that small. The reason they and my deli manager decided they were going to make sure the lady paid full price for her sandwich was because we had to throw away about $35 worth of bags on her account. And also, she had just been really obnoxious to us. Also, she had massively held up the line. This caused several people to leave the line without buying a sandwich, which in turn also lost us money." Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Parabolic000. It says, "Oh boy, do I ever feel this. Work at a liquor store. I have to call a manager for our highest theft items because even in an unmarked cabinet in an employee area, they still got stolen. So now they're locked up and only managers have keys. It makes everyone's lives harder, but at least it stops some of the theft." And as for story 1, recently had a lady do that at my store, denied her the sale because of ID issues. She takes her arm and sweeps a display off, knocking over 12 bottles and costing the better part of everyone's shift to clean up. What I'm trying to say is, people don't know how to act right, and I sympathize. Your writing's pretty good, by the way. OP responded and said, "Yeah, the main problem was, because of state health codes at the time, I had to throw away probably about $35 worth of bags over a $3 price difference on a sandwich. It also made a bunch of people have to wait really long for food, and some of the line wound up leaving without buying a sandwich, so it cost us even more money. Also, reaching into the deli area could be classified as assault. That's why I had to report it. I don't know if she got banned from the store, but I personally never saw her again." Another commenter down below called Curiously Anna said, "Why is it always the ones who can afford what they want without any issues that are always the ones you have to watch? Meanwhile, I'm not making it paycheck to paycheck, but will go back if I'm undercharged to pay what I owe." OP responded and said, "I'm no jeweler, so I don't know if the jewelry was real or not. There are people who look rich, but really are massively in debt. This wasn't a commentary on socioeconomic status. I only mentioned the white suit and the bling because it meant she stuck out like a sore thumb and was really easy to catch." I think this commenter's actually going somewhere with this one, because when I was at my first job at a grocery store when I was like 16 years old, there was a lady who was older who was going around the store shoving things into her clothes, and she tried to walk out, but loss prevention got her. And when she called her husband to come pick her up, he was driving a brand new Bentley. I guess that is one way to stay rich though, if you pinch every penny and, I don't know, try to scam people for about $3 on a purchase. I guess you can keep a whole bunch of your money. Now, I don't know about the rest of you out there, but I'm hoping that OP posts more stories, and I'll be definitely keeping my eyes open for them. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.